You don't need a slim one. Because it's a slim, right? The
Govinda. Well, we need the other.
How do you close that tape?
What's that?
How do you close that tape?
How do you close it? You close these doors.
You don't need to close it.
We like it open.
You want one, Shivaya?
when I got on Instagram, you can follow my it'll be a totally different thing. It'll be a totally different story.
Hibiscus is a little bit bitter, yeah.
There's a little sugar in it, or just plain?
didn't know.
Okay.
It is.
That's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
No, it ain't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they fit on them?
They're too little. I made them too little. So I just put them at their feet.
It doesn't work, huh?
Yeah.
Let me try. Yeah, I think so.
It's too little. Then.
Okay. That's very nice. Let me ignore.
Either chairs or whatever you're more comfortable.
Actually, if you want, even that there's a bendy chair, you can turn it around. It's comfortable.
Joel fell asleep. Should be like a little bit of Oh, no. You should be elevated.
It's not midnight. It's full moon.
If I elevate myself, my foot stays lower. I think it's blood. They fall all the time. Yeah.
Are you okay sitting, or you need a pillow?
Oh, no.
Oh yeah. Oh, ada. Daima, daima. Oh. Oh, this is the main one. Daima. Is it on? I think we're good. Oh, the microphone is in. Microphone.
Oh, yes.
Alright. Yeah, Emma. Everybody get this cool drink? It's Tulsi also, right? Tulsi and hibiscus. And the masters of tea now. There may be some people coming, then we can let them sit on the bench behind if they need to. Some bench there.
Panorama.
Hmm?
Panorama.
Okay, I want more. Modern technology, but it makes things more complicated, but many more people get to hear. And it seems to be meaningful to people. Let's do it. Come on. Kalyani? Demo Kalyani. Your seats behind, you can, or even if you guys move just a little bit forward, then people can. When it's done. Okay. Okay.
Would you like some hibiscus?
Hibiscus Tulsi tea. This seems like Shiva and Kali combined. I mean, Krishna and Kali combined. It seems a little
Sword in the
blasphemous, it seems. I don't know.
Good for Falaharini, maybe.
Yeah, that's Palaharini. This is a Palaharini.
That's half a cup.
Jaima. O Mangalam Gurudevaya Devye Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindevyo Sarva Lokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Gurur Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Gururevo Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Vande Gurum Paramparam. Jai Madhyam, come. I need to bring him a little bit closer. You sit here, or can you, or back here, back here. Okay. Jai Ma. Nice credit. So today, most auspicious day, Guru Purnima. In traditional sannyas culture, this is the only puja that sannyasis are allowed to actually do, is Guru Purnima puja, right? Officially, you're not supposed to say Namaha or Swaha, all these in the super orthodox tradition. Only the Guru Guru puja can be worshipped, and then we judge the age of a sannyasi by how many Guru Purnimas he's done as a sannyasi. So how old that would? I don't know how old I am.
First Guru Purnima would have been in 1999.
99. That makes me
18.
18. I'm 18. Ah, Tina. I can sign my own notes at school now. Yeah, so very, very nice. So this is what part of the tradition. So yeah, that's how we judge, and so that's even the way you judge ages between like traditions of respect of who bows to who in the sannyas tradition. And the first thing I've had, I meet sannyasis in India, Ramakrishna Mission, and they ask you, what year was your sannyas? And then you tell them, and then they do really quick math. Like, okay, I can, or like they wait. It has to be even like sometime month. You know, sometimes it's a Sneh Maharaj where he's like a month and a half ahead of me. So we have to bow to Sneh Maharaj. Anyway, the old tradition. So today is, they call this Guru Purnima, beautiful full moon. Beautiful weather for a full moon. It may rain tonight. We'll see. If it rains all of a sudden, we may have to run inside. We'll see. You're following online. A rain cloud slowly coming towards us with lightning.
Lightning 9 miles away.
Lightning 9 miles away. Let's see what happens. So this is it's also called Vyasa Purnima. This is it's celebrated as the Jayanti, the birth anniversary, Advent anniversary of Veda Vyas, right? And it's also celebrated, but I'm not quite sure if I don't know the text where it says he's born on such and such Amavasya, this particular month, but it's also celebrated the day that he started to write Mahabharata by some people. There's different things that it's done, but it's connected to Vyasa. And Vyasa, the guru, is considered a representative of Vyasa. And Swami Omananda, he had a very nice, he says that actually the asan, the seat of the guru's seat, or anybody reading from the scriptures, called the Vyasa-san, Vyasa's seat. It's not Bhajananda-san or Chaitananda-san, Ambikananda-san, it's Vyasa-san, it's Vyasa's seat. And Vyasa is only speaking the Vedas and Puranas and Tantra, the Vedic literature, the traditional literature. And therefore the person who speaks the Vedic literature is a representative of Vyasa. And Swami Omananda had an interesting criticism. He says, it's like I've spent my whole adult life, I also sometimes say I've spent my whole adult life studying the scripture tradition and the tradition. And so far, he says, in all my study of the scripture, he said, I'm not a scholar, but we know scholars, and some of our disciples are scholars, and they've done much research. Right? He says, so in their research, we haven't found my name anywhere. Right? Omananda is not there, Bhajananda is not there, Chaitananda is not there. Right? So so anybody who's preaching their name, he says that maybe they're great and they can preach their name, right? But it's not guru. Guru should only preach the Vedas, only the message of the Vedas or the transcendental tradition. right? Otherwise, they're not in this position of Vyas. And then Guruji also said, like, there was one was Dr. Radhakrishnan the first president of India? I think he was. First president of India, Dr. Radhakrishnan, S. Radhakrishnan or something, right? And he's, of course, a hero. He was a great scholar, professor, and he was a teacher, and a great philosopher and scholar. And he's a hero, right? And because he was a teacher, his birthday is celebrated as Teacher's Day, right? So then everybody goes and worships, honors their teacher. You bring gifts to your, in India, there's a lot of deference to teachers. And so, like that, it's his birthday. It's not your teacher's birthday, but because he represents teachers and your teacher represents him, people bring presents to their teacher and go do pranams to their teachers at school on his birthday. So Guruji said similarly on Vyasa's birthday, on Vyasa's day, we got the representative of Vyas. We don't have Vyas, but it's a way of honoring the teachers. So very auspicious. In our ashram in India, we have 2 big bandaras every year, on Guruji's Mahasamadhi Day and on Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima is a little complicated. It's rainy season, so sometimes it's rain. It's not easy to feed 1,000 people and entertain 1,000 people when it's raining. I mean, usually pouring, not raining. It's a rainy season in Allahabad right now. So we'll see how I'll call tonight and see how the feeding went. At least probably 1,000. First the sadhus, invited sadhus and sannyasis, babas, then the Brahmin students from the local Sanskrit schools, then all the devotees of the ashram, and then the children from the various schools, then whatever's there, and by that time people realized the bandara coming. So people began to just show up. People were hungry and poor like that, and so pretty soon everybody, all day long. You've been to bandara, You've been to bandara at ashram, the Guruji's bandara, I think, right? It's quite something, and everybody's given also dakshina. This is Swami. I remember Swami Govindananda told you, in America you pay to eat. Here they pay you to eat. They invite you to eat, and then they also give some money to each person. It's a very nice tradition. Very, very nice to get the blessing. Everybody should leave happy and honored. So we had a little, by Swami Ambikananda's grace, we had a very nice Khichdi bandara today. We've had a few sadhus. Very, very nice. That's the main food of bandaras. So I was thinking that last week we canceled our satsang due to some health and some other situations, but we were here, right? And a few people showed up thinking it was satsang, right? They didn't see online that we had canceled it, so it's okay. We can sit here and we read. And so we read from Swami Vivekananda one talk called Discipleship, one of my favorite talks. And we didn't quite finish. We read in one section. Probably 2 months ago, we also canceled because of rain. We canceled the Saki. We were out here in the rain, and a few people showed up anyway. So we went to my kutir, and we read the beginning of that. So we were a little bit thinking about Swami Vivekananda's lecture on discipleship. We still have like 2 paragraphs left of that. We ran out of time last week. So I was thinking we can finish that, but we never developed, this group of people hasn't developed those beginnings, so we'll finish that another time. But in his Bhakti Yoga, Swami Vivekananda, there's a talk, or sections of a talk, just one's called The Need of the Guru, and Qualifications of the Aspirant and the Teacher. And Bhakti Yoga is very small. It's the smallest of Swami Vivekananda's 4 yogas. Maybe Karma Yoga is smaller, I'm not sure. So he gives a translation of Bhakti Sutta, I think. But it's very strong. Yeah, he's explained. When I read it, and I had a little bit of a revelation, kind of interpretation tool of this text, some of these talks, that he's explaining simple things to people who've never heard of these things. Right? He explains Ishtadevata. He explains karma. He explains what's a mantra. He explains what's a guru. He explains what it means to be a disciple. He explains the Ishtadevas, these things that people, intelligent people, had very intelligent, learned audiences, but they had no background in these things. So if you want to talk about, so he's explaining to people who've never heard. And so there's a benefit of that, because you go down to the very base, very intelligent, but from the basics on up. So I thought this would be a good thing to read. We can discuss. Let me find it again. In the previous chapter sections, he talks about what is Ishvara, because what is Bhakti, definition of Bhakti, and in the Narada Bhakti Sutta describes that it's this supreme love of God is Bhakti, So he's describing, but his audience had learned a lot and heard a lot about Vedanta. So he's trying to show how bhakti fits into Vedanta, what is Ishvara, what is Brahman. So he goes into those. We won't, and then he goes into need of Guru. So I'll start there. Every soul is destined to be perfect, and every being in the end will attain the state of perfection. Sometimes I think Swami Vivekananda, his opening statement, blasts, right? It's like one statement is 90% of world religion collapses. The view is Dharma on this one statement, because so much in the discipleship lecture, he describes the qualifications of a disciple. It's a heavy qualification, the high standard of Vedantic guru, a Vedantic disciple. One of the qualifications is to have no interest in anything in this world or anything in the next world. Right, that's the first qualification. No interest in anything in this world or the next world. That means heaven, right? So going to heaven shouldn't be the goal, and a verse of that, not going to hell shouldn't be the goal, right? And most people's religion, it can be. Even we grew up with this kind of idea of religion, right? It's like it's like there's something fundamentally flawed with the human being, right? So much so that we can be called a born sinner. Right, worthy of damnation, if not for the salvific grace. And so, if you believe, then you have access to that reservoir of grace, and therefore can go to heaven. And if not, then the punishment of your essential bad nature will be fully vetted on you, and you go to hell. You experience hell. And so, Swami Vivekananda makes a very strong argument: is that this is not religion. Actually, it is religion. This is not the religion. He's not Vedanta. What he's talking about, right? This is it's natural. Nobody wants to suffer, and everybody wants to enjoy. Everybody wants something better. Nobody wants something worse. That's natural. And somebody tells if you do this, or you think this, or you believe this, right? Then you'll get something better, and you won't get something worse. That's a nice setup, actually, right? It's not so bad, right? And but it's not the highest motivation for religion. Right. Thakur, Swamiji, quoting Swami Adiguru Shankaracharya, it's the desire for liberation should be the foundation. Right. That's in his in that discipleship. He ends with that. The real motivation is the desire for freedom, desire for God, desire for direct divine experience. Right. And so even every soul is destined to be perfect. So this is a statement of what in theology they call it universal salvation, right? And Abbot George, the way he would say that nothing that comes from God can be eternally separated from Him, right? If you start with that, then you take the idea of an eternal hell away, right? Whatever heaven is, whatever God is, right? Everyone's destined to attain it, right? So just that first statement, it's a wonderful commentary and, in a certain sense, rejection of most religion, right? It's like the qualification of a disciple. Take this off the table. You're not going to hell. Even if you go to hell, it's not permanent. And even if you go to heaven, that's the problem. In Hinduism, the view is even heaven's not permanent, right? So that can't be the goal, right? So everything is destined. So it's not just going here. It doesn't say everybody's destined to go to heaven, right? Everyone's destined to be perfect, right? And Vedanta and Swamiji would say that actually everyone is perfect. Right, we're in our essential nature, right? But we doesn't feel that way sometimes. Some days it really doesn't feel, we don't feel that perfect. But sometimes just the first statement. Every soul is destined to be perfect. One of his definitions of religion, he says every soul is potentially divine. For a long time I had a little hard time. Potential means that can possibly be, right? You have potential in you. You can potentially become a doctor. Right, we use that word. That's not what he means. Potential means the power is there. Daima, come closer. Yeah, you can. I don't want you to hide in the background. Oh, good. You found a place. Good. It means that by saying everyone is potentially divine means everyone is divine. God's already within you. The potency is already there. It's like something's potent. Right. Everyone is potentially divine. And the purpose of life, the purpose of religion, the purpose of life is to manifest that divinity, right? So here is everyone's destined to be perfect. Is that divinity will be manifested, and every being in the end will attain perfection. Where whatever we are now is a result of our acts and thoughts in the past, and whatever we shall be in the future will be the result of what we think and do now. Anybody know where that line comes from? That's the first line. That's the first verse of a scripture. He just defined many things. There, you can put footnotes on everything. Swamiji says is from some text or some. You know, everything. I'll read it again. Whatever we are now is a result of our acts and thoughts in the past, and whatever we shall be in the future will be the result of what we think and do now. The first verse of the Dharmapada. Dharmapada, right? Probably the central authentic text in Buddhism, right? So all that we are now is a result of what we've done, and it's our karma, right? Our thoughts and actions have led to where we are now, and our thoughts and actions now will lead to the future, right? So if we're destined to attain perfection, if we're not in perfection now, it's because of our thoughts and actions that have led to this state of not knowing our perfection, right? And if we're going to attain perfection, it's by changing our thoughts and minds, thoughts and actions now. So he's setting it up. Whatever we are now is a result of our acts and thoughts in the past, and whatever we shall be in the future is a result of what we think and do now. By this, the shaping of our own destiny, the shaping of our own destiny does not preclude the receiving of help from outside. Right? So while we create our own future, outside help is helpful. Nay, in the vast majority of cases, such help is absolutely necessary. When it comes, the higher powers and possibilities of the soul are quickened. Spiritual life is awakened. Growth is animated. And in the end, man becomes holy and perfect. Right. We can get some grace from outside. It seems to help. This quickening impulse cannot be derived from books. That's his also statement. Right? So we need help. We need some inspiration. We need some guidance. We need some extra thing that could help us attain that perfection. Right? But it's not in books. Even in this book. Right? His words aren't a book yet. Right? But you can see. But in a certain sense, such statements are. I mean, we feel his potency in the book. We feel like the Gospel of Ramakrishna is a living book. We feel Ramakrishna in the living book, right? But it's not the same as inspiration. It's not the strain of information, even divine information. It's some thing. Sri Ramakrishna, talking to Swami Vivekananda, is a great, beautiful example. He says, I remember probably he says, get one almanac, right? The almanac describes the expected rainfall of the year. For this year, the farm, like we had the Poor Richard's almanac or something like that, right? Describes, right? He says, and there has tables of the expected rainfall of that year, right? And he says, now squeeze it, right? You know, right? And not a drop of water comes out. It's only about rain, but not a drop of water. So these books are only about God, but there's no God in them. Right, there's something that's not there, right? So even books, even books are important. We happen to love books. It's maybe a good quality or a bad quality, I don't know, right? But the spark, Swamiji says, has to come from a living soul. The quickening impulse cannot be derived from books. The soul can receive impulse only from another soul and from nothing else. We may study books all our lives. We will become very intellectual, but in the end we find that spirituality has not developed at all. It is not true that a high order of intellectual development always goes hand in hand with a proportionate development in the spiritual side of man. In studying books, we are sometimes deluded into thinking that thereby we are being spiritually helped. But if we analyze the effect of the study of books on ourselves, we shall find that, at the utmost, it is only our intellect that derives profit from such studies, and not our inner spirit. This inadequacy of books to quicken spiritual growth is the reason why, although almost every one of us can speak most wonderfully on spiritual matters, when it comes to action and the living of a spiritual life, we find ourselves so awfully deficient. To quicken the spirit, the impulse must come from another soul. The person from whose soul such an impulse comes is called the Guru, the teacher. And the person whose soul the impulse is conveyed is called the Shishya, the student. Or we would probably do it, Shishya, student or disciple. So he's now giving this definition. The one who gives the spark, the impulse, the push, is the guru, and the one who receives it is the disciple. This is a definition. To convey such an impulse to any soul in the first place, the soul from which it proceeds must possess the power of transmitting it. You can't give what you don't have, right? So if I'm going to give you something, it means I have to have something to give you, right? As it were, to another. And in the second place, the soul to which it is transmitted must be fit to receive it. Right, these both things. You have to, somebody has to have something to give, and you have to have the ability to receive it. Right. There I know one Swami. I don't remember his name right now. He was, as a young boy, he met Swami Shivananda in Rishikesh. Right. And somebody called him, come, I'm going to give you some sweets. Right, to the boy, let me see your hand. Put your hand a little smaller than your hand, little tiny hand, when you're like your sister's hands. Right. And he takes, Swami Shivananda was a big man. Right, and big body man with huge hands. Right, and he takes this big thing of and puts it in the hands of the little boy. And of course it spills everywhere. He can't hold it. And his father got very upset. What are you spilling? And then Swami Shiva, don't worry. When he gets older, he'll be able to hold it all. He became a monk and he became glorious in his own way. You know, right? He had a little boy. He can't hold what Swami Shiva wanted to give him. But eventually he would hold what Swami Shiva wanted to give them. He'd grow up. You know, he'd become qualified. This is called the adhikari, the qualification of the disciple. The seed must be a living seed, and the field must be ready plowed. And when both these conditions are fulfilled, a wonderful growth of genuine religion takes place. A living seed and a ready field. And he's quoting from the scriptures. The true preacher of religion has to be of wonderful capacities, and clever shall be the hearer also. The guru should be great, the student must be great. And when both of these are really wonderful and extraordinary, then will result a splendid spiritual awakening, and not otherwise. Such alone are the real teachers, and such alone also are the real students, the real aspirants. I like this. I was in my kutir a little while ago, and I was kind of taking a nap. I should look what I'm reading before I get too embarrassed, not looking, not knowing. And I thought this was very nice. These are the real teachers and the real students. And then he gives another way of saying student, aspirants. Aspirant, a student, you go to school, you're a student. Aspirant is different. Somebody who, I don't have to talk. Aspirant means aspires, I guess. I like the word aspire. Or what Ram Sukadas ji uses, he calls it a striver. That's the definition. So this means sadak. Not just student, it means sadak. Aspirant is Swamiji's language. I like a striver is also, even because aspiring we don't have that the same developed idea of an aspirant, but somebody who strives, striving to, what is it striving? Destined to be perfect, striving to be perfect, striving for God, striving for liberation, striving for devotion, striving like this. Right. This is the qualification of a real student. All others are only playing with spirituality. They have just a little curiosity awakened, just a little intellectual aspiration kindled in them, and are merely standing on the outward fringes of the horizon of religion. There is no doubt some value even to that, since it may in the course of time result in the awakening of a real thirst for religion. And it is mysterious law of nature that as soon as the field is ready, the seed must and does come. As soon as the soul earnestly desires to have religion, the transmitter of the religious force must and does appear to help that soul. So even it may not, like I said, most people are on the outer edges of religion, but that has value because that may be the plowing of the field bit by bit. And when it's ready, immediately the seed will come. When the power which attracts the light of religion in the receiving soul is full and strong, the power which answers to the attraction and sends in light does come in a matter of course. What's that line from some Aurobindo about the soul aspiring and then the descent of grace?
Oh, the great and difficult thing which we wish to accomplish.
Yeah, what that?
supreme grace descending from above and the earnest
And
yearning from below.
Yeah, these two, that combination, the yearning is great from below. Actually, even that's how this lightning that may come works. There's a there's two things. There's a charge on the above and a different charge below, and then when that happens, something dramatic may just happen. You know, very very nice. Where are we? There are, however, certain great dangers in the way. There is, for instance, a danger of the receiving soul. Of the receiving soul mistaking momentary emotions for real religious yearning. We may see this in ourselves. Many a time in our lives, somebody dies whom we loved. We receive a blow. We feel that the world is slipping between our fingers, and we want something sure and higher that we must and that we must become religious. In a few days, that wave of feeling passes away, and we are left stranded exactly where we were before. Thakur talks about that something happens in that. I'm renouncing the world, going to Kailash. Right, you know, it's like, and whether he goes no, he renounces the world. Right, he didn't go well with work. He renounces the world, leaves his family, and goes to Benares. And then after a few months, he writes back home to his wife, "Don't worry, I found a job. Right? You know, I'll send money soon. I'll be back shortly." You know, like that Rick renunciation was not quite. So that's okay. Even that has its value, perhaps, right? But this is not the real hunger of the soul. Momentary emotion is not the same. All of us often mistake such impulses for real thirst after religion, but as long as these momentary emotions are thus mistaken, that continuous, real craving of the soul for religion will not come, and we shall not find the true transmitter of spirituality. If that real longing is not there, the real Guru won't come. So whenever we are tempted to complain that our search after the truth that we desire so much is proving vain, instead of so complaining, our first duty is to look into our own soul and find whether the craving in the heart is real. Then, in the vast majority of cases, it will be discovered that we were not fit to receive the truth, and there was no real thirst for spirituality. There is still greater danger in regard to the transmitter. So this is the danger of the one seeking transmission, and the Guru. Now the transmitter, the Guru. There are many who, though immersed in ignorance, yet in the pride of their hearts, fancy they know everything. And not only do they stop there, but they offer to take others on their shoulders, and thus, the blind leading the blind, both fall into the ditches. Fool, and then he quotes from Mundaka Upanishad. Fools dwelling in darkness, wise in their own conceit, and puffed up with vain knowledge, go round and round, staggering to and fro. There's probably a seat back here you can take. Staggering to and fro like blind men led by the blind. I think we even have blind led by the blind. Is that in the Biblical Bible also? It might be. There's some line like that. But you know, a blind person leading a blind person, what happens? They both fall into a ditch ultimately. The world is full of these. Everyone wants to be a teacher. Every beggar wants to make a gift of $1 million. Just as such beggars are ridiculous, so are such teachers. It's a very strong Swamiji's, like a beggar wanting to give, here, take $1 million. Yeah, interesting. So that's a very short. The next one, here goes the qualifications of both aspirant and teacher. This is a little lighter. In that other section, discipleship is the qualifications for, like, Vedanta. And these are like already complete renunciation, absolute control of the senses, complete control of the mind, full, I mean, a little hard a little bit. It's good to know, but a little bit discouraging. These are for the rest of us. We can try to stay. How then are we to know a teacher or a guru? The sun requires no torch to make itself visible. We need not light a candle in order to see it. When the sun rises, we instantly become aware of the fact. And when the teacher of men comes to help us, the soul will instinctively know that truth. That truth has already begun to shine upon it. Truth stands on its own evidence. It does not require any other testimony to demonstrate it. It is self-effulgent. This is interesting because this is not our normal definition of how you know something is true. To know something is true, you need evidence to confirm that it's true. Right? But Guruji used to say the same thing. There's no amount of evidence can... Actually, it's interesting. Some of you, at another place, in his Jnana Yoga, he makes a very interesting point. He says that, of course, Swamiji also brilliant. He knew philosophy, Western philosophy, Indian philosophy, all the schools of philosophy, the modern theologians of his time, the religious preachers of his time that were preaching against him. He knew all. He was very, very knowledgeable of these things. He said all these people are trying to prove God's existence, right? The philosophers, the theologians, prove or for or against God's existence. But the people I know who know God, who know God's existence, who realize God, none of them engage in any of these arguments. All these are scripting. We're trying to there's the theory from intelligent design. There's there has to be, there can't be effect without a cause. There has to be an original cause. There's all these. I mean, now there's been developed beyond what I studied in school. We studied all the arguments for and against the existence of God, right? But no saint has ever made any of these arguments, right? It's like, how do you know? Well, how do you know God exists? He says, well, I know God exists. How do you know God exists? Prove it. What do you say? When you know, you will also. When you know, then you also know. There's nothing could be said. So it's really hard. It's not a by modern standards. It's not a demonstrable fact, right? That's the point. Trying to demonstrate philosophically, or maybe even scientifically or neurologically, God's maybe. I mean, according to Swamiji and according to our Guruji, it's an impossible possibility. He says it can only be known. Guruji's language. Maybe Shivananda. He says. You can only be known, the self can only be known in the ecstasy of intuition. That's his language, right? It's not an object to be discussed. It's not no amount of reasoning can prove it or disprove it. Right? Swami Paramananda, our Guru Bhai, he says that all this philosophy we study cannot reveal the truth. Right? All it does is remove error, falsehood. Right? So by thinking clearly, you remove wrong thinking. Thinking carefully is very important. You remove mistakes in thinking, but it doesn't reveal the truth. That's the problem, right? Only by direct knowledge. So here, it is the truth stands on its own evidence. And then the example of like the sun. When the sun shines, what do you need to see the sun? Get a flashlight. We'll go look to see if the sun shines. Okay, I'll go get a flashlight and see if I can find it. Right? The sun itself is its own evidence. Right? Right. When you don't see the sun, then you need evidence. And then you collect evidence and reason, and you check your app, right? you study, or the sun has to be there because of the orbit of the Earth, right? Otherwise, the seasons. By that, even if it's cloudy, we don't see the sun. We can infer that it's there by indirect evidence, right? Like that. But when the sun shines, then you don't need any such evidence, right? If you don't see the sun, then you can. The sun was there yesterday. So I'm assuming by inference that it's there today. There can be all kinds of things you could, or it's its own evidence. Right? When it comes up, you don't need anybody to tell you. So in the same way, he says that when a real teacher comes, or not even a real teacher, when your teacher comes, then you know automatically. It penetrates into the innermost corners of our nature, and in its presence, the whole universe stands up and says, "This is the truth." When you see the truth, the whole universe says this is the truth, the beautiful. And Swamiji, I don't have the passion to read Swamiji properly. He was an orator. I can imagine he would even he was so powerful. You have to read Swamiji. I mean, I read it all the time. You should read it out loud, right? And the more melodramatic, you can almost how then are we to know the teacher? You have to get it right. I don't have the. I feel silly if I say my word. We've lost that style, but right, it's not my style. But in a closed room, you can read it this way. You try to dramatize it, and you can, where nobody's listening to you. You can, but somebody is listening to you. The soul will get up. This is the truth. The teachers whose wisdom and truth shine like the light of the sun are the very greatest the world has known. And they are worshipped as God by the major portion of mankind. Right. So these great ones that are self-revealed, like blazing suns, right? Those nobody questions. Those are worshipped. I mean, you think these are what we call the founders of religion, the prophets of religion, the saviors of religion, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Ram. These are inconceivable. Seeing them, we know. If there's a God, that's God. We don't know what else. What else can you worship such people, right? And so everybody wants that type of guru, right? We want Jesus, we want Krishna, we want Ramakrishna, Dattatreya, it's like shining like 10,000 suns and scorched by his, like, or the, some. But the problem is that I quoted last week, Swami Shivananda has in his Bhakti and Sankirtan book, he has a great line. He says that Gaurangas, Chaitanyas, and Mirabais, right, such souls, they're born every 500 years. Right, those type of souls are not every guru is that type of soul, right? Where but the ego wants that type of soul, right? And so either it rejects what it the actual relationship with the proper teacher because they're looking for some glow in the dark avatar type of person, or they take their normal healthy relationship with the teacher and make they're God, they're an avatar. Right, they're the all gods and goddesses. This is we can make those type of things, right? But so Swami Vivekananda is saying those teachers, there's great teachers like that, the prophets and saviors of mankind, the Jagat gurus we would probably call them, the world gurus. Those teachers whose wisdom and truth shine like the light of the sun are the very greatest that the world has known, and they are worshipped as God by a major portion of mankind. But we may get help from comparatively lesser teachers. Right. Also, only we ourselves do not possess intuition enough to judge properly of the man from whom we receive teachings and guidance. So there ought to be a certain test, certain conditions that for the teacher to satisfy, and also for the taught. So this is like since we don't know, knowing that the can't say common guru because there's no such thing as a common guru, but an ordinary. Prabhupada uses as ordinary, regular guru, right? They said when he told his disciples to take disciples, what type of guru? Be a regular. They're not him, but they're qualified to pass on the tradition. Be a regular guru, right? So what does it mean to be a regular guru? Since we don't know the qualification, how do we judge, right? So there should be some standard, right? So here he's giving the standard. You want to sit here? You see right here, Jayama. So what is this? I think it may rain. It's changing. You can feel it. The pressure is changing. Very exciting. So what are the qualifications for the teacher? What are the qualifications for the taught? The conditions necessary for the taught, so this is our condition as disciples. What does it mean? Are purity, a real thirst after knowledge, and perseverance. Right? Purity, thirst after knowledge, and perseverance. No impure soul can be really religious. Purity in thought, speech, and act is absolutely necessary for anyone to be religious. As to the thirst after knowledge, it is an old law that we get only what we want. None of us can get anything other than what we fix our hearts upon. To pant for religion is truly a very difficult thing. Here, religion does mean I can pant and then accept a religion. That's not what's meant. Religion here is a union with God, a connection. He's using the word in a specific way. To pant after God, to pant after religion, extreme longing. I like this word pant. Is a very difficult thing. It is not easy as we generally imagine. Hearing religious talks, reading religious books is no proof yet of real want felt in the heart. There must be a continuous struggle, a constant fight, an unremitting grappling with our lower nature, till the higher want is actually felt and victory is achieved. It is not a question of 1 or 2 days, of years, or of lives. The struggles may have to go for hundreds of lifetimes. Successes may sometime come immediately, but we must be ready to wait patiently, even what may look like an infinite length of time. The student who sets out with such a spirit of perseverance will surely find success and realization at last. Remembering, I think Thakur tells a story or something. I have to admit I don't remember. I think Sri Ramakrishna tells a story where I think maybe Narada Muni is walking along and he sees somebody a yogi under a tree. It's a typical story. Narada Muni walks around and meets a yogi under a tree. All stories roughly like that. And the yogi says, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to Vaikuntha right now to do some business with Vishnu." Oh, can you please ask him how long it will take me to attain liberation and realize him? Yes, I'll ask him. Walks a little bit further, another yogi under another tree. I ever start needs at least 2 yogis to compare. And he says, where are you going? I'm going to Vaikuntha. Ah, very good. Can you please ask Vishnu how long it will take? So he goes, talks to Vishnu, asks his question, comes back. Coming back, he comes to that one yogi. He says, so what did Vishnu say? He says, it will take 3 lives. Right? You're almost there. I'll take 3 lives. Like I've been fasting and like covered in ash, and there's no good food, and like after all this, and still it'll take 3 lives. Forget it. Right? I'm gonna go get a job and a hamburger, and he leaves. Like forget this. It's too much work. Right? Right? What does that mean? That means he won't ever attain. He just gave up. Right? He had 3 lives and he won't attain anything. He gave up. Right? So Narada Muni goes to the second yogi. He goes, what did Vishnu say? He says, you see that tree? This tree you're sitting, as many leaves there are in that tree, that many leaves you'll have to do before you attain realization. He goes, you mean they'll attain liberation? It's possible. Or immediately he was liberated. Right? It's a very nice, With regard to the teacher, we must see. Okay, so that's the qualification of the student: is purity, steadfastness, and thirst for knowledge. Right. So then, what are the qualifications of the guru? With regard to the teacher, we must see that he knows the spirit of the scriptures. The whole world reads Bibles, Vedas, and Qurans, but they are all only words, syntax, etymology, philology, the dry bones of religion. The teacher who deals too much in words and allows the mind to be carried away by the force of the word loses the spirit. It is knowledge of the spirit of the scriptures alone that characterizes the true religious teacher or guru. The network of the words of the scriptures is like a huge forest in which the human mind often loses itself and finds no way out. There's verses like this, is that the statements that the scriptures are the Veda, even like the Vedas are the ultimate authority in the Hindu religion. And it says, but the statements that Vedas are vast, complicated, and contradictory. Right? So within the Vedas, you're lost like in a forest. So how does that help? Even if you study like that. The network of words is a big, and then he's quoting, the network of words is a big forest. It is the cause of aimless wanderings of the mind. The various methods of joining words and various methods of speaking in beautiful language, the various methods of explaining the diction of the scriptures are only there for disputations and enjoyment of the learned. They do not conduce to the development of spiritual perception. This is also in quotes. I mean, he's quoted in the scripture, and he doesn't state the scripture. I have to compare, but I think I know the scriptures I think it's from the Bhagavatam, but it may be, even the version of the Bhagavatam may be quoting a known type of thing. It says that actually these controversies of religion are meant for the enjoyment of the educated, right? The more education, the more you enjoy it. It is very entertaining, right? Right, such the thing. But it's not the direct realization, not the knowledge. Those who employ such methods to impart religion to others are only desirous to show off their learning, so that the world may praise them as great scholars. You will find that not one of the great teachers of the world ever went into these various explanations of the text. There is with them no attempt of text torturing, no external playing upon the meaning of words and their roots. Yet they taught nobly, while others who have nothing to teach have taken up a word sometime and written 3 volumes book on its origin, on the man who used it first, and what that man was accustomed to eat, and how long he slept, and so on. Very funny. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna used to tell a story about some men who went into a mango orchard. It's a very famous story, right? And busied themselves in counting the leaves, the twigs, and the branches, examining their color, comparing their sizes, and noting down everything most carefully, and who then got up a learned discussion on each of these topics, which were undoubtedly highly interesting to them. But another man, more sensible than they, did not care for all these things, and instead began to eat mangoes. And was he not wise? So leave this counting of leaves and twigs, and this note-taking to others. This work has its proper place, but is not here in the spiritual domain. you never see a strong spiritual man among those leaf counters. Leaf counters, he put, that's his definition. I remember it in my final paper in a class at OCC on philosophy of religion, and it was one of these you have to present, it was a case for and against the existence of God for using different arguments, this argument and that argument, see which one was the ultimate winner, and so we had to, that was the assignment, we had to do that, and then even at that time the ultimate conclusion, well, there's no proof either way, it's more likely than not that such a God exists that created the world, because you have a world of complicated form, it's one of those type of stuff, right? But then I put this story at the end of the talk, like, this has been a very enjoyable class, but it's like, this is not quite and I remember the teacher, he called me, I visited him, he was, everybody has like a teacher at school that you like hang out with and go to his kind of a mentor type thing. He was my teacher, Dr. Anaker, Gain Anaker, a brilliant person. But he wrote a little, and then afterward I said, he said to me, so I read your, it's like I got it luckily in that class, the only class I ever got actually a really good grade. I got a good grade on that class. I was very happy with myself. I have to like the problem is I have a leaf counting tendency, so it was good. I could play the game and do right. But he says like that statement actually that his thing is that actually counting the leaves, right, is the goal of this class, and therefore you're it's like yours is not a class on meditation or prayer. Right, this is a class on the arguments for and against, the arguments presented in religion, where philosophy and religion and theology, it's like that itself is a legitimate course of study. I mean, I guess I know he himself was a deeply religious man, so he was also that struggle, But I thought that was interesting. It was my final thing I did at OCC was this. It seems to be quoting. The first condition, and he must know the inner meanings of the scriptures. Actually, the verse, Swamiji's not making this up. It's not his ideas. He's quoting from established standards, right? And actually, it says he should know the outer and inner. The original verse says should know the outer and inner meanings of the scriptures. So you should know the scriptures. It's not like the essence of the Gita is surrender to God, or the rest of the Gita of the Bible is accept God's love in your life and forgiveness. That could be the essence, but that doesn't make you don't give you a theology degree, because that is the essence. Sri Ramakrishna said the essence of the Gita is what you get by saying the word 10 times fast. Gita, 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 Gita becomes tyagi, which means renunciation, right? So that's the essence of it, right? But I mean, I can also give. I took a class on Bhagavad Gita at the GTU. I would have been very nervous saying that, just tyagi, 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 and turn the paper in. That's the essence of the Gita. So you should actually know the text. The guru should know the text as well as their inner meaning, not just. The second condition of the teacher is sinlessness. The question is often asked, why should we look into the character and personality of a teacher? We have only to judge what he says and to take that up. This is not right. If a man wants to teach me something of dynamics or chemistry or any other physical science, he may be anything he likes. But what the physical science requires is because what the physical science requires is merely an intellectual equipment. But in the spiritual science, it is impossible from first to last that there should be any spiritual light in the soul that is impure. What religion can an impure man teach? The Sinkonan, right? You know that.
It's starting.
Daima.
Starting to
Is it raining?
Starting to rain.
Are you getting wet?
I got a few drops.
You can go a few minutes maybe before. Just make sure the camera.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Let's see how much I can get. A few minutes. What religion can an impure man teach? The sinkonan of acquiring spiritual truth for oneself or for imparting it to others is purity of heart and soul. A vision of God or a glimpse of the beyond never comes until the soul is pure. Hence, with the teacher of religion, we must first see that he is what he is and then what he says. And that's a very interesting. First what he is, then what he says. Swami Vivekananda, Swami even not even what he does, right? Swami Shivananda says, "Be good, do good." Many people do good, but they're not good, right? That's first be good, then do good, and then you are good, right? You know, what can be taught if this? What can I'm sorry. He must be perfectly pure, and then alone will his words come to have value, because he is only then a true transmitter. What can he transmit if he has no spiritual power in himself? There must be a worthy vibration of spirituality in the mind of the teacher, so that he may sympathetically convey it to the mind of the taught. The function of the teacher is indeed an affair of the transference of something, and not one of mere stimulation of the existing intellectual or other faculties in the taught. Something real and appreciable as an influence comes from the teacher and goes to the taught. Therefore, the teacher must be pure. How are we doing? Any more? There's only a few paragraphs. I'll see if I can finish. The third condition is with regard to motive. I think this is a very important one. And this is one of my favorites. Also, I have like 15 things you write on Rolodex cards and keep around, like the index cards. It's great lines. The teacher must not teach with an ulterior selfish motive for money, name, or fame. His work must be simply out of love, out of pure love for mankind at large. The only medium through which the spiritual force can be transmitted is love. Any selfish motive, such as desire for gain or for name, will immediately destroy this conveying medium. God is love, and only he who has known God as love can be a teacher of godliness and God to man. I love this verse, this line, so that the medium is only love, and selfishness and love don't go together, right? When you see in your teacher these conditions are fulfilled, you are safe. If they are not, it is unsafe to allow yourself to be taught by him. For there is a great danger that, if he cannot convey goodness to your heart, he may convey wickedness. This danger must by all means be guarded against. He who is learned in the scriptures, sinless, unpolluted by lust, and is the greatest knower of Brahman, is the real teacher, quoting from the scriptures. From what has been said, it naturally follows that we cannot be taught to love, appreciate, or assimilate religion everywhere by everybody. Sermons and stones. Then he quotes a very beautiful poetic line, right? Sermons. Sermons and stones, brooks and running brooks, books and running brooks, and good in everything. Right? I learn from everything, from the mountains, from the hills, from the book, everything. He says it is all very true as a poetical figure, but nothing can impart to a man a single grain of truth unless he has an undeveloped germ of it in himself. To whom do the stones and brooks preach sermons? To that human soul, the lotus of whose holy inner shrine is already about to open. Then you get inspiration even from nature. Like Guru Dattatreya learned from everything. The 24 gurus, from a bee, from a bird, from everything like that. But we see bees and birds and nothing happens. We don't learn anything from that. You have to be ready for that. Bees aren't the guru. Who's your guru? Oh, bees are my guru. Right? That's what becomes silly. But to Dattatreya, it's like, wow, we've been telling that story for 1,000 years. How bees became Dattatreya's guru. How crow became Dattatreya's guru. How a woman's dangling bracelets become his guru. Right? It has to be the right. So there has to be something in the soul. To the human. When the heart has thus been opened, it becomes fit to receive teachings from the stones and the brooks, the stars and the sun and the moon, or from anything that exists in our divine universe. But the unopened heart will see them in them nothing but mere stones or mere brooks. A blind man may go to a museum, but he will not profit by it in any way. His eyes must be opened first, and then alone will he be able to learn what the things in the museum can teach. This eye-opener of the aspirant after religion is called the teacher, the guru. With the teacher, therefore, our relationship is the same as that between a descendant and his ancestors. Without faith, humility, submission, and veneration in our hearts towards our religious teacher, there cannot be any growth of religion in us. It is a significant fact that there was this kind of relation between the teacher between the teacher and the taught, that where this kind of relation between the teacher and the taught prevails, there alone do gigantic spiritual men grow. While in those countries which have neglected to keep up this kind of relation, the religious teacher has come to be a mere lecturer. The teacher expecting his $5, and the person taught expecting his brain to be filled with the teacher's words, and each going on his own way after this much has been done. We do this in school. You pay your money, you give me the information, then we're finished. Right? He says that this is the problem. This is in this culture. This is how it is. Under such circumstances, spirituality becomes almost an unknown quantity. There is none to transmit it, and there is none to have it transmitted to. Religion with such people becomes a business. They think they can obtain it with their dollars. And I think like that. We go to people do. You go to a seminar. You pay money for a class. You want inner spiritual. You want shamanic empowerment by giving. It's like I pay you money. You give me the knowledge. This is impossible. Would to God that religion could be obtained so easily, but unfortunately it cannot be. Religion, which is the highest knowledge and the highest wisdom, cannot be bought, nor can it be acquired from books. You must thrust your head into the corner. You may thrust your head into the corners of all the world. You may explore the Himalayas, the Alps, and the Caucasus. You may sound the bottom of the sea and pry into every nook of Tibet and the deserts of Gobi. But you will not find it anywhere until your heart is ready to receive it and your teacher has come. And when that divinely appointed teacher comes, serve him with childlike confidence and simplicity. Freely open your heart to his influence and see in him God manifested. Those who come to seek the truth with such a spirit of love and veneration, to them the Lord of truth reveals the most wonderful things regarding truth, goodness, and beauty. It's Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Very nice. Swami Vivekananda. No, that's Swami I was mentioned last week. Swami Shivatmananda from Chinmay Mission, Girish Maharaj. He's one of the rishis of our age, I believe. He made a beautiful, he was talking, he says in the second chapter of the Gita, he was going through each chapter of the Gita, what's the sadhana of that chapter? In the second chapter he says that the sadhana is bhakti to the Guru, because they reveal, because Arjuna becomes a guru of Krishna, a disciple of Krishna. And he says you respect the teacher, how much you venerate the teacher until you attain realization, right? And then after you attain realization, you venerate the teacher out of appreciation for the realization. So it's very nice. The teacher, like in school, you respect the teacher until you have to obey the teacher until you're taught. But how do you treat after you've been taught? Then you appreciate how you've been taught. There's so much love and appreciation. So anyway, this is, I thought, a very nice little section to read, and Swamiji is always inspiring. And he was speaking. Of course, he was revealing new things that most people haven't heard. But also, already there were some, the Theosophists and Ascended Masters, and there was already things going on in the world, the New Thought world that he was preaching to, right? And so he was both talking about these principles of Bhakti Yoga and Yoga, but he's also warning and correcting what was going on for the time, right? Was not much change we could analyze and critique the modern time also. Not meaning to critique, but anyways, this is a very nice presentation. Thank you for your kind attention. Before it starts pouring, any questions or comments? This holy day. In the tradition of Sri Ramakrishna, of course, the Guru is the Guru. We worship, and we often say Guru is God. We worship Guru as God, and in India that makes a certain sense. Right, and it was a modern. You can see how that can easily become crazy. Something beautiful becomes something wicked, and in the West, it's almost guaranteed to become crazy and wicked. We don't have the background knowledge, right? And so Sri Ramakrishna, he'd say the same thing, but with a slightly different thing. It says the same thing, but it's much safer. He says God is a Guru, right? Not that the Guru is God, but that God is a Guru. Right, when we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Deva Param Brahman. The Guru is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and the Supreme Brahman. Now I wish I had more, but I had great faith in my Guruji. right? But I actually don't think he created the world and will destroy the world at the end of time, right? So how is he Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? The one, I love him personally, but the guru that acted through him is the one that created the world, right? It's not saying that my guru is Brahma. No, the one who is Brahma is the one I worship. And like we have an image of Durga. It's a clay image or a paper mache image or a clay image of Durga. And during the ceremony of Prana-Pratisthana, you invoke the, for 4 days, she's worshipped as Durga. Then the prana is reduced, and then that image is thrown in the water, in the ocean, right? Right. So what happened is the image. Oh, it's so beautiful, so beautiful. Everybody's bowing and worshiping, and big arati, the whole thing, and dressing, and to see her and be seen by her and worship her. But it's not the image that you're worshiping, right? That she who is Durga is in the image, and temporarily that image is that form is there. So we this is a safer view, right? That the one we worship, the one we honor in the guru. Although the personal love for the person that's due to human relationship, is the Daima is God is a guru, and when we worship the guru on this holy day, and any day, we're really worshiping God, who comes as Thakur called Guru Tattva. There's the Tattva, the Guru principle, right? It's a much safer perspective, right? And Swami, another point that came to my mind that I want to think about, Swami Gyanananda, a wonderful Kriya Yogi, Swiss man who walked India from Switzerland many years ago. He's passed away a few years ago. A very great saint, I believe, great yogi. And in one I've heard him say this, but it's also, I recently reread an interview with him. But I've also heard him say this, so it's fresh in my mind from the interview. And he says, actually, there's not my guru, right? He always says the guru, right? He says one time he came to somebody, he went to an organization, he was invited to some ashram, and he said, "What do you think of our guru?" He says, "I don't." Right? And they were very offended because their guru happened to be the latest incarnation of God. It was going to give you Dharma and the highest technique and travel the West, with one of those type of ashrams, They were very offended. But then he asked, "What do you think of my guru?" Right? He says, "Why, we don't know your guru." He says, "Why would you know my guru?" Right? He's not your guru. Right? It's like the idea that my guru has to be the greatest guru. He's the real. He says he said he wasn't popular there. He left soon. Right? It was a dangerous situation. Right? It's an interesting. So he says, I don't like to see. He says he never even mentioned his guru's name to people except intimate. His own disciple, he says, I was initiated by Swami Atmananda. Atmananda was initiated by Paramahansa Yogananda and by Swami Keshava. I mean, there's a lineage, of course, and lineages there. But to say, oh, who's your guru? Oh, my guru's from here. Oh, yeah, I heard him talk when he's okay. Right? But he's not like this other saint who's come through town, right? That you can see it's very dangerous, right? And even if there is a comparison between that other saint who came to town, the one that I heard a lecture of recently, right? And so quoting Abbot George again, you see a great line. He says that in a battle, in a war, millions of bullets are shot, right? But the one that you have to deal with is the one that hits you, right? So so it says that the one that hits you, that's the one you have to deal with. The other ones doesn't matter, good or bad. And in this interview, somebody asked him, "Was your guru enlightened?" Right. Sorry, there's a rule that Swami Chidananda talked about. If you ask him, somebody asked him, I was there, are you enlightened? He says, that's against the rules. He says there's a rule against it. You can't ask that question. Right? He says, do you know why? He says for starters, he says that if I say yes, right, all my disciples will leave me. Because what guru will say, yes, I'm enlightened. Right? Forbidden to say such a thing. And if I say no, all my disciples, why would you follow a non-enlightened guru? Right? So this question's not allowed. The questions you should ask, do I know inner and outer knowledge of the scripture? Am I initiated by a proper guru? Do I have a selfish intention for teaching you? Can I answer? It's like, that's the proper question. And do you have a relationship with me? Not am I like that? So somebody asked him, Swami Gyanananda, is your guru enlightened? And he very nice, he says, I was drowning and he threw me a rope. Right, so I didn't ask him if he was enlightened. So let's leave it with that. Jai Guru, Jai Ma. What time is it now? Let's see.
6:08.
Oh, 6? Oh, it's raining. We can still talk 10 minutes. It's raining. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. We go in. This is very auspicious. It's to rain after the Haven and. Oh, there's somebody. One of our if anybody wants, these are our Guru by Carlos. So I was present the day he took this picture. This beautiful picture of our Guruji was taken in Laguna Niguel at Irene's house. And he recently sent me an envelope with these on metal. If anybody wants, I'm not proselytizing one guru, but I told him it's, if anybody wants, my guru. You know, my guru. He really was great. Or is great.
They'll be okay.
Yeah, they're metal. They're good. So this is our Swami Vishnavananda and his guru Yogiraj Handiya Baba.
We can just take from there. Guru?
Yeah, you can take. I'll give you. You can hand that if you want, but not for the sake that. If you really want to, if you.